So we also wanted to touch on misgendering and how to prevent it. So as you can see in the slide deck, there are kind of 5 basic principles on how to prevent it. So the first would be to not make assumptions about a person's gender, which we've gone over a few times now, but is incredibly important. Everyone presents their gender and their identities in different ways, and not making those assumptions means you're challenging those some might say archaic or false gender norms. The second would be to use inclusive terms or ask which terms you should use. So kind of going back to what I talked about earlier with pronouns, you can ask for someone's pronouns, or again, even share your own in the hopes of creating that safe space for someone to do so. You can ask for someone's pronouns or any identifiers they'd like to share, since not everyone likes to share pronouns or might just want to go by their own name. For example, they might not want to associate themselves with specific pronouns. And then once you know the correct terms, use them. Like, that's pretty simple. And if you make a mistake, we talked about earlier some things you could say instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, and making it a big deal. But pretty simple. Practice using those terms. And then avoid gendered language. So this challenges those norms also, and it normalizes using gender-neutral language in everyday conversation, and that'll help prevent misgendering too. Instead of referring to a group of people as, those guys over there, those boys over there, just say those students over there, or something like that. Practicing very basic gender neutral language like that is very important, and also makes it easier to use that gender neutral language in other settings and with your students, and then also even using correct pronouns as well. And lastly, avoid referencing past gender identities. So we want to meet people where we're at. And if someone transitions, for example, and goes by Luca now, for example, that person is Luca. We know them as Luca now, so that's how we should refer to them. And if they identify as a trans male, let's use that language instead of saying things like, when they used to be a girl. We could just say, we can just use Luca's name or what pronouns they'd like, or any version of that. Just meet people where they're at. And I also just wanted to point out that 4 of these 5 points come down to language, which is why language matters and is so important and requires practice, but still very important. So similar to what we talked about with pronouns on this next slide, but expanding the conversation a little bit, if you misgender someone, again, don't beat yourself up. We all make mistakes sometimes, but let's put in effort to switch that language in our brains and use the correct terms in the future. So it's okay to apologize if you say something like, again, kind of what I was saying earlier, but, I was talking to him. Oh, sorry, I meant her. And then, continue the conversation. But if you don't catch it immediately, and if someone reminds you of their correct pronouns of their name, then instead of apologizing and drawing attention to it, just thank them for the reminder and move on. And again, this takes practice. So using that website earlier on in the slide deck to practice that, or using it with pets, or the other suggestions that I've discussed, that's a great way to get that practice. And now if you see or hear someone being misgendered, whether you're an active part of the conversation or not, check in with that person and ask them if they're okay and if they want support or how you can support them. This might be best to pull them aside and speak to them one-on-one and ask if they'd like you to correct people who misgender them. And if they say yes, then do that. This is a great moment of allyship, and we'll get into bystander intervention soon. But this is just kind of a preview that make sure you correct people if someone misgenders someone. Even if that student or person that is being misgendered isn't present in the conversation when you actually hear the misgendering. That's an important thing too. We aren't just allies when LGBTQ plus folks are around. We're allies all the time. And then, this material is kind of best learned through practice. And again, I know that we're not in a space where we can all do that together. But again, I would like you to take some time to just practice asking for someone's name and pronouns, model what you could do if you misgender someone to the person directly or while talking to the person about someone else, for example. And, I know this would probably be a solo practice, but just know that this is a safe space and we're free to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And you have us as resources to help in the future if you'd like. And again, we're all in this together. We're meeting everyone where everyone's at, and this is a safe place to practice this, but it is important to practice. So I know you are all brave in being willing to practice this. And so I hope that this exercise just gives you kind of a safe space to explore that.